Okay, so I know I'm a little late to the party on this one, but obviously we had a massive week of news that I covered before this with the good situation. So I'm getting into this now because you know what? I still think it's what I want to talk about because this is one of the most outrageous stories I've seen surface in a long time. And you likely saw this on Twitter, you saw this on Instagram, a quick flash. You're like, you had some questions, but obviously you're not diving deeper. That's what I'm here for. I've spent the last couple hours diving into this one, trying to figure it out for you guys, and we're going to talk about it. Right before we jump into this, be sure to hit that subscribe button before Monday. I'm going to be picking one lucky winner next week and sending you guys a pack of whatever balls you play, Pro V1, TP5s, Bridgestones, whatever it is that you guys want. I'm going to send you a pack for Christmas. So thank you guys so much for the support. It's been incredible. I'm honestly overwhelmed. I appreciate it so much. I love golf. I love YouTube, and I'm just going to keep hustling and grinding this content for you guys. So this outrageous story, to my knowledge, first surfaced on Foreplay, where they posted it on their Instagram and then talked about it on their podcast. Now we're going to get into the exact details of what happened here first, which is that there was a group at a 4-man scramble that came into the clubhouse claiming they shot a 46, which included a hole-in-one on a par 4, an albatross, a bunch of eagles, and a bunch of birdies. A bunch of very crazy things. Now there are two main lines of conversation here if you really dig into it, which is number one, are they claiming they just shot that? I think every single person in the world who understands golf immediately is like, no, there's no chance. There's no chance that ball got hit off the tee and got hit again and went into the hole that few times over the course of 18 holes. Doesn't matter who those 4 people are. Those 4 people, and this gets credit to Foreplay because they talked about this specific example in their podcast, but you could take Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, Justin Thomas, and John Ram, pick your 4, put them on a scramble. It's not happening. Like, even if they birdied and eagled every single hole, that'd be a 50, you know what I mean? Even if they got 1 or 2 eagles on par 4s, that's still at best a 48, and that is, most people would say, likely impossible. Like, yes, best players in the world, but again, doing that consistently across all those holes, even them, there's a question. Let me put it like that. Whether it could happen to them or not, there's a question. Any normal person on planet Earth, especially any 4 normal people on planet Earth, to me, this story gives me like the Dave Portnoy, like, I'm going to win the Open vibes with unlimited mulligans. Like, you could take 4 normal people and put them on a golf course. I don't care how many mulligans they bought. You can give them unlimited mulligans. They're not making a hole-in-one on a par 4. Like, yes, Matt Sharp did it, but it's an anomaly. There's so much luck involved in that like, you see it even on the DP World Tour. They have that video series on their YouTube channel where they take tour pros and give them like a 150-yard par 3 and 500 golf balls. So they have 500 shots to see how the wind's affecting and what club they should hit. They hit 500 balls. Most of them never make a hole-in-one. Sometimes they do, but very rarely. My point with all this is that you take 4 amateurs, you give them unlimited attempts at a par 4 during tournament play, 0 chance of making it a hole-in-one on a par 4. It's just not happening. So the actual legitimacy of this score is completely and utterly invalid. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your argument is. There's no chance 4 normal golfers went out and shot that. The other side of the story, and the argument that you probably didn't see unless you dove deep, was the justifications of maybe how this score was written down on the scorecard, which is that, you know, in certain charity tournaments, you can buy an ace, you can buy mulligans, you can throw it, you can get a mulligan and a throw on certain holes, whatever. Still trying to justify the score. But once again, this is hard to add up into my brain because, again, even with mulligans and throws, the ball still has to somehow end up in the hole, right? Like, unless you're actually just going up to every hole and being like, I want a birdie on this hole, purchase, and they're just giving you $100 and check off the list or whatever. To me, this score is just utterly impossible. And what makes it even more unbelievable, even if those situations were in place, like a lot of people are trying to argue on Twitter, that again, they were able to buy mulligans, they had throws, they had this, they had that, and that's how they got this low score. The other scores in the clubhouse, you can see in the corner of the video, they're in like the mid 50s, some in the 60s. Like 4-man scrambles, it's typical, right? You get somewhere in the 60s, maybe a couple crack into the 50s, especially when you start throwing in mulligans and you start being able to, you know, pay for a hole-in-one on a par 3. But that's like a rare occurrence, right? And even then, you're still, with amateur golfers, you're still looking somewhere like high 50s, low to mid 60s. That's normal, and that's where every other score on this list fell. They are 10 shots lower than the next lowest score displayed on the scoreboard. And that's why you hear them all booing. Like, if you watch the video in the clubhouse and they announce it, everyone's booing.
And in first place, with a score of 46,
in my mind, they would not be getting booed. They would not have that big of a score discrepancy if this was just how the tournament was being run. If there was no like cheating involved in this, they would not have that reaction from the clubhouse likely. So in conclusion, obviously there are going to be score shavers on every level of golf. You see it all the way up to Q School with that guy who claimed that all his balls were sitting just on the OB line, and they went back that night and found like 10 of them in the out of bounds area. There's always going to be people doing things like this. This one was just outrageous because obviously it was an outrageously low number that no one would believe even pros could hit, but it also had such a big score score discrepancy from the rest of the scores in that tournament. Plus, the entire clubhouse was booing them, which goes to show there's got to be something funky going on here. That's why I wanted to talk about it. But let me know your thoughts about this whole story in the comments below.